Folks, welcome to the OZone. Last we spoke, the Leafs were set to play a couple of games against some Metropolitan foes. Got 3 or 4 points, some big-time saves. We're going to break it all down for you right here on the OZone.
You're in the offensive zone, your place for Leafs hockey.
Hey folks, welcome to the OZone. That's Coach, that's Katie, and I'm the Diva. We're here to talk all things Leafs. Listen, hit subscribe, ring the bell. You'll never miss any content. Share, like the video. It spreads the word, and leave a comment. We take it seriously. It helps drive the content. Okay, the Leafs go to Pittsburgh and beat the Pens, matching their best offensive performance of the year, really. Murray making his first appearance since the opener. He fought the puck a little bit, but he was pretty solid, I thought. I thought they played pretty well. Then they hosted the Red Hot Devils last night, dropping a close one in OT. Again, Murray was fantastic. He really stole the point for Toronto. KD, what did you see? What's going on with these Buds?
Well, they're getting there. I mean, I think they're still playing, decent hockey and stuff. But if you looked at the difference between them and New Jersey was the better team that night. Certainly the team that had more hunger. Like they had more tenacity. They're going after the puck. This New Jersey team is actually not that big. They're fast. They're fairly skilled, but they're tenacious. They're chasing pucks. They're supporting each other. They're crashing the net. They're doing all sorts of stuff, and that's the team we want from them. We want to see Toronto, all 3 periods of every game. We saw a pretty good game by Bunting finally. He seems to be back. He's one of those guys who has that, or at least last year had that hunger. And I think he got fairly against Pittsburgh and DKI. As I say, not every door can be opened with a key. Some need to be kicked down, and I think right here I think we got one. I will point out, too, I know I'm probably driving Coach crazy a bit, but the Leafs are 1-4 now in overtime. The last 4, they have not registered a shot. And even what's worse is that they've only given up 4 shots against. So essentially they go to overtime, it's one and done, and the game is over. I think they've got to do something different. I think it was well litigated that Matthews probably should have started. I'm actually almost with the idea of starting 2D and 1 forward the first shift and then putting your bin guns out 30 seconds later. But whatever it is, they need to either create a system, do something, because it just seems like they're not even close now in overtime. They go to overtime and they get blown out in less than 30 seconds and the game's over. So I'd like to see them do something there. And then finally, one thing I noticed, and I know he's been much maligned this year and has, been inconsistent, but I was watching Justin Hall's game, and this is maybe a little bit of the finer tune, the finer tune moments here. When you watch him play, he often plays with indecision. If you look, there's not much snap on his passes. He's a little light on the puck. He plays pretty heavy as far as physicality goes, but he's not decisive enough a decision maker with the puck. But if you watch him, so when you're watching the next Leaf game, take a look. Watch how many times he actually follows through with a pass. It's virtually zero. I watched the whole game, and he did not follow through a single pass. If you throw a ball, or you swing a baseball bat or a golf club, even if you shoot a pool cue, you need to follow through. It creates not only accuracy, but it also tempo. So I personally think his stick is too tall. I know it's insane to say an NHL hockey player has a stick that's too tall. But I don't think I see it on that back foot. I don't see any follow through on those passes. I'd like to see that in his game and be more assertive with the puck moving.
Yeah, I mean, D love having long sticks. It gives him bigger reach out there. But you might be onto something, KD. That's an interesting point. We'll have to keep an eye out for that. Coach, what's been going on with these Leafs the last few games, and what do you think's happening?
You might be onto something. That you're insane. You're telling a guy in the NHL that his stick is too long. He's on the ice every single day. Anyway, okay. So the question was, what's with these Leafs? So 2 games. So against Pittsburgh, we did a good job in 2 areas. One went to the net, I think that's a carryover from the Vancouver game. Probably the biggest goal, a goal mouth scramble goal we scored all year was Engvall's goal in that Vancouver game Saturday night. We didn't feature it on the next pod, but unbelievable effort getting to the net. That carried over against Pittsburgh. And the other part of the Pittsburgh game was so got up and then had to weather the storm. The second period, Pittsburgh was all over the Leafs, and it didn't look good. They scored a couple to get back in it, but we hung tough. And that hadn't been happening earlier in the year, so that was good. Now, I agree. I think Matt Murray had a good more third period against Pittsburgh. That was good to see. Mm-hmm. And then against New Jersey, Kev, I actually agree with you. New Jersey looks like the Leafs. They look like the Leafs of the last 3 years. Right. They're young, they're fast, they're not super physical, but they get in on you. They got all kinds of talent. It's a fun, exciting team to see. They were the better team. It's like watching the Leafs where they were running through the Canadian division and then the 115-point season. So they were the better team. They deserve to win. Frankly, we stole a point with Nylander scoring at the end there. So that was good. What I like, though, what's that?
They're on fire. New Jersey.
They're good. They're good. Yeah. I mean,
Lindy Ruff has them just flying out there. I love that coach.
We may know a little bit about how that style of play translates to playoffs, but they're exciting to watch. So here's another thing. So 3 games ago, we switched the forward lines, right? Nylander with Matthews, Marner with Tavares. So the reports of Matthews' demise were perhaps a bit premature. In the last 3 games since they switched, he's got 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. It's a +5. His shooting percentage is 18% in those games, and it's 10% now for the year. He's got the 3rd most shots in the league. He's always been top 1, 2. He's got 80 shots. He's got 8 goals. So 10% for the year. That's getting up back towards where he's been. Nylander in that same 3-game period, 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists, and he's been a +3. So that move has worked. I don't think it's the long-term, the permanent move, but that move has worked.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that assessment too, by the way. And I've been one, even last year at times, who called for maybe mixing up the Marner Nylander.
You have. Absolutely
you
did.
Pretty consistent with that. And I'm not going to go into a long dissertation about why I think that works. I do think that pairing Marner also right now with 91. 91's playing great. Hey, Matthews might not be the quintessential Matthews that we've been used to, but isn't it a little bit better that we got 91 playing better and 88 playing better? I mean, if the tide rises all boats, isn't that better? So it's
to be fair, 91 was going before they moved Matthews, before they moved Marner down. He's been good all year.
So Marner's been quiet, right? Yeah, but he's on a 10-game point streak, so he might be coming too. So maybe we're showing some signs of life up front.
I agree, 100%. Just a couple other things I want to get after here. When you look at this team on paper, you go, well, geez, the defense, it's the problem, especially with some of the injuries, especially to the bigger character guys like Muzzin. You go, geez, this team really could use a big, solid right D. Their goalies are meh. When you look at it, they don't really have anything on paper that sort of makes you excited, particularly when you consider the injuries the Leafs have had this year. But the team has been pretty solid defensively. And what remains confounding is the lack of offense. I mean, I know we've started to see some evidence that that's turning around, certainly for the top guns, maybe not all the way through the lineup. But 52 goals in 18 games. That ranks 24th in the league. At this point, through 18 games, offense is the issue, isn't it? What do you think, KD?
Yeah. Absolutely it is. And we said it, we've all said it in slightly different ways. It's tenacity, going to the net, finding all sorts of different ways of scoring. I think if we want to start talking about the trade, you want a guy if we're going to bring someone in, especially at forward, who's, I'll tell you a guy, Brendan Gallagher, a guy whose motor is always going and he's going to the net and he's willing to take the abuse. We saw it when Engvall decided to do it. Good things happened. They scored. We saw it against Pittsburgh when Bunting decided to do it. You have to have an engine that doesn't stop, and you need to really move towards the net. And I'm going to throw something out there, another insane thing that coach is going to be all over me, I guarantee you at. But I don't think Austin Matthews' wrist is right. And I don't know if he's hurt per se, but if you watch, he rarely takes a snapshot. And I'll show you one clip here. Everyone's going to say, oh, well, what about that goal that he scored against Vancouver? Look at the goal right here on this picture that's coming up. This is a drag wrist shot. Like, this is what you do when you're a peewee trying to raise the puck. That doesn't show to me that his wrist is in good shape. And I don't know if it's a lack of rotation or lack of flexibility or range because of the surgery. But he just does not take that snapshot, the one with the awesome release that he overwhelmed goalies with. We've rarely seen that this year. We've actually seen a slap shot more than a snapshot. And we went 2 years without even seeing him take a slap shot. So yeah. I wonder if there's something wrong with that wrist. He's a top talent and he's scoring other ways. It's great, but I will feel much more comfortable when I see that snapper go between defenseman legs and through goalies' legs and over their shoulders, and we just haven't been seeing it. That's another reason why the goals are down this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for Austin, but it is true that sort of signature, not dangerous looking shot that fools everybody has been noticeably absent this season. Coach, who are these Leafs right now? We've had 18 games under our belt. Who are they?
Kev, I'll agree with you. On that point, that you are insane. So, hold on a second. That thing you just showed, he scored. He freaking scored. So now you don't like the way he scored? The type of shot he used to score.
That's not what I said. I'm happy he's scoring, and he can score different ways.
Yeah, but he didn't rip it by the guy like we're expecting. So now he's got to rip it to score and also score. Oh, well, by the way, this is the wrist that he hurt at the beginning of last year. He scored 51 goals in his last 53 games. Right. That's the sore wrist. Right. Okay. All right. All right. So to your question, who are these Leafs? Well, there's two schools of thought, right? In Leafland, or at least the people watching the team. Here's a comment from our subscriber Rob M. I'll leave it to him. So a lot of Leafs Nation is like you, Devo. Something's not right with the D. Rob M says, and while I agree, the numbers suggest the D isn't the problem, the eye test says every mistake ends up in the net. Who is it? I don't have this whole thing, but he goes on to say Liljegren, Sandin can't go, Riley can't clear to the net.
Here it is. Hull is brutal. Sandin is an adventure. And both Riley and Liljegren couldn't clear the front of the net if you gave them a snowplow.
Pretty good, Rob.
That's not bad, Rob.
Is he from Buffalo?
Yeah, that's right. So all the snowplows are in use right now. So yes, that's fair. I've talked a lot about the fact that the D, without Muzzin and Brody, there's a bunch of guys that are 6'7" guys, right? So you're going to get that. But so I talked about the roster and the problems with it in the last pod. Oh, and it just so happens pretty much everything I said ends up in this article here. So Justin Bourne wrote an article on Sportsnet. These Leafs don't seem to have the same ceiling. He talks about the fact they're not scoring. They're definitely not scoring at 5-on-5. They're actually a pretty solid defensive team, even though the results are better. The sum of the parts is better than all the parts themselves. They're all kind of okay. And we're getting some saves. But so his point was mine last year. You cannot argue. It's inarguable that this roster isn't worse than last year. It is. The bottom six isn't as good. The top six is maybe coming out, but they're not great. The D is worse. The goaltending remains to be seen, right? Yep. But I would argue this. I think, so you want, his argument in the article is you want a high ceiling because you want to win multiple rounds and win the cup. So you want the best team you can have and you need skill. I would say this, the roster as constructed now forces them to be better on D. I think the forward group is a much better group defensively than we've had. I think we're in better shape to win a round with this roster as constructed. I mean, think about it. Who's the worst defensive forward on the Leafs, guys? So immediately you think Nylander, right? But when Nylander is into it and he's trying, he's actually pretty decent when he decides to go back in his end. Who else? Everybody else is solid. I'm open to. Do you have a guy that sucks?
No, I have to agree with you. Actually, yeah.
The point is, his point was the same. So they've focused in that bottom six of all guys that can all play defensively. Spezza wasn't great defensively. Malgin's not bad. So the end result is they're going to take, team defense is pretty good, even though they have some guys on the back end that are make questionable decisions or are slow. They've been okay so far.
You know what I got to say, Coach? If you look at this year's team, and I know on paper it's easy to say that they're not as good, and we'll leave the goalies out of it for now, which is where we saw the biggest change. We also have a lot of room for guys to improve, and I would make an argument that in the last 3 or 4 games, we've seen the third and fourth line possess the puck a lot more than we've seen in the previous 15 games. They're not necessarily looking dangerous, Malgin occasionally or whatever, but they're possessing the puck, they're tilting the ice. If they continue to do that, good things will happen. David Kampf is actually winning some draws. In the first 10 games, he couldn't win a draw. That was his thing last year.
Kampf's been better. Aston Reese has been better. And a guy who got moved back in the top 6, Bunting, had a couple goals against Pittsburgh. He's decided to stick his nose in front, which, Kev, I know you're a big fan of. He has to play that way, guys. He's not good enough to be a perimeter player. So okay. I agree with you. Devo. We're coming, and we'll come. I don't know that we'll get all the way back to where we had been, but we're coming.
Yeah.
And that's also, Coach, let's also talk about when we started the season, we didn't have Lyubushkin and we didn't have Giordano, right? So, yeah. I mean, there is an argument to start last season, our D wasn't better than it was to start this season. And you can
I think that's fair.
You can still make additions and trade. So we'll see. It is a work in progress, and hopefully we'll add some things as we go.
Guys, let's be honest. The Leafs had an unbelievable run in November last year, and were okay in December. But they sucked in October last year too. So at this time last year, we were only just starting to get excited about this team because they were starting to go on a bit of a heater. So you didn't like Travis Dermott last year, Kev? You didn't like Travis Dermott, who, by the way, was scratched the other night with Vancouver? Oh.
Yeah. That worked out.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Everything you need to know about your buds, we've got you covered right here. We hope to see you soon on the OZone.